Hello friends, today we have a story about an unusual man, a mountaineer king. But let's start with an old photograph. In this almost family portrait, signed as brothers in arms, we recognize the Russian Emperor Nicholas II, and in the center the English King George. And it's not just a photo where everyone standing are relatives, whether distant or close. The English and Russian monarchs are like two twin brothers. But today's story is not about them, but about someone standing slightly aside King Albert I of Belgium. Apparently he was deliberately placed slightly behind, as he is taller than the other monarchs. How did a king of such a small country like Belgium end up among such great empires as Britain and Russia? Let's figure it out. Born in 1875, Prince Albert led a life typical of a member of the royal family of that time. He studied, traveled, and even tried to influence the crazy politics of his uncle Leopold II. The latter orchestrated a true genocide in his colony in Africa, the Free State of Congo, reducing the population from 30 to 15 million people, according to some sources. This genocide, by the way, is one of the largest in human history. But it was not easy to influence the mad tyrant Leopold II, especially since he was often in Africa, while Prince Albert was in Belgium. For the future monarch, mountaineering became a source of freedom. He avoided the hustle and bustle of the world and enjoyed the tranquility of the mountains. The Belgian prince became a close friend of the Italian prince, Duke of Abruzzi, Luigi Amadeo. It can be said that he began mountaineering under the influence of his friend. By the end of the 19th and beginning of the 20th century, mountaineering became very popular, especially among the upper class. Many elite representatives sponsored mountaineers, and some, as we will see in our story, began to engage in this sport themselves. The English explorer Stanley conducted his expeditions on funds provided by Belgian kings, who used his activities to expand their colonial possessions. Albert became interested in mountaineering at the age of 31 in 1905, and his first ascent was a traverse of the Bernina Massif, a technically difficult route. The prince did not choose easy paths. He was interested in challenging mountain climbs, and he successfully pursued this throughout his life. Before the First World War, King Albert I was actively engaged in mountaineering, preferring to conquer the wild and unexplored corners of the Swiss Alps. There, in remote areas, he made numerous difficult ascents, marking the first ascent on many routes. Among his achievements were ascents of majestic peaks such as Mont Blanc, Monte Rosa, Matterhorn, and Jungfrau. In the Italian Dolomites, he tackled difficult rock routes, often accompanied by experienced guides, including Tito Piaz. One of Albert's close partners in the mountains was Charles Dufayeur, a confidant of the prominent entrepreneur Ernest Solvay. Together they did much to develop mountaineering in Belgium. Ernest Solvay in turn left his mark in the history of the Alps with his funds. A rescue shelter was built, which still helps climbers on the route to the Matterhorn. However, despite his love for the mountains, royal duty demanded its toll. In 1909, the death of his uncle Leopold II led to the crown passing to Albert. Time for mountaineering was becoming scarce. During the period before the outbreak of World War I, King Albert I actively worked on exploring and equipping rock regions in his country inspired by the Italian Dolomites. He supported the work of mapping and equipping routes in Belgian cliffs. However, the shadow of war was already looming over Europe. In 1913, in Berlin, the king received a warning from Kaiser Wilhelm II about Germany's intentions. Despite his familial ties with the Kaiser, the young monarch refused the request to allow German troops to pass through Belgium, choosing instead to maintain the neutrality of his country. France's warning about these plans helped undermine the surprise of Germany's offensive. In August 1914, Germany presented Belgium with an ultimatum demanding passage of its troops into France. In response, King Albert declared mobilization and entered the war. The Belgian army managed to delay the advance of the German army for several weeks, which helped France organize its defense. Despite facing superior enemy forces, the Belgians fiercely resisted on their territory, holding their positions until the end of the war. Thus, tiny Belgium played a significant role in World War I, becoming a springboard for anti-German forces, which helped delay the blitzkrieg on France. After World War I, King Albert rose to the pedestal of a national hero, his name resonating as a symbol of knightly spirit and martial honor. People called him the King Knight and the King Soldier. And his popularity rapidly grew not only in his native Belgium but also in every country of the Entente. In 1914, Russian Tsar Nicholas II honored Albert with the Order of St. George, 4th class, and later with the 3rd class of this order. These honors undoubtedly brought satisfaction, but even among noble awards, the king seemed to be searching for something more, something that could give him solace and inner peace, and he found it in the mountains. Albert once again set his sights on the peaks, starting his journey in Chamonix, where he made several bold ascents. In 1926, he accepted Arnold Lund's invitation and participated in ski mountaineering competitions in Mürren. There he met Walter Amstutz, a local hotelier and outstanding mountaineer and skier. Walter and Albert spent several seasons together conquering cliffs and snowy peaks. Later, the king's main partners became leading mountaineers from South Tyrol, the spouses Hans Steger and Paula Weisinger. The list of routes conquered by the king, especially in the Eastern Alps and the Dolomites, was impressive. These were routes that only the bravest mountaineers could master. And it's remarkable that many of these ascents the king accomplished after reaching the age of 50, often without the assistance of guides. Even in the company of experts, he always led the way on difficult sections, displaying himself as a true professional. Calm and composed, King Albert showed respect to everyone, regardless of their social status. And it seemed that in the mountains he found refuge from his royal status, becoming an ordinary person where his soul could freely flourish in natural harmony. Dusk enveloped the residential area of Marche de Daim, nestled in the shady forests along the river near Namur. On this winter evening, like many others, the king, along with his faithful adjutant, set out in their car to this secluded corner of nature. Surrounded by limestone cliffs towering solemnly above the forest, Albert planned to undertake yet another ascent. Having completed one route solo, the king met up with his adjutant, and realizing that there was still plenty of daylight left, decided to embark on the next challenge. Descending into the forest, he left his companion on the trail and ventured deeper into nature, full of determination to confront a new challenge. However, time passed and the king was nowhere to be seen. Concerned, the adjutant began to run through the woods, calling out the monarch's name, but there was no response. Then he sought help, gathering more people for the search. Minutes turned into hours, and the anxiety grew with each passing moment. Finally, the king's closest friends and his mountaineering partners arrived at the scene. The search became increasingly desperate, but no results were found. It was decided to enlist the help of a military unit, and then they found traces of a secured rope in one of the ravines. A little later, on the slopes of the ravine, the body of the king was discovered lying amidst the fallen leaves. The sudden death of the beloved monarch was a heavy blow to all of Belgium. The king's death, as it turned out, sparked a wave of conspiracy theories. Some claimed it wasn't him, but someone else, that the body was substituted, and the real king was being held hostage. Others insisted he couldn't have perished on his own, and his death was the result of a cunning conspiracy. However, over time, many of these theories were debunked. DNA analysis, conducted many years later, confirmed that the blood samples found at the scene of Albert's death indeed belonged to King Albert I, likely perished as a result of a tragic accident in the mountains. What exactly happened in those secluded cliffs will remain a mystery. Whether it was an accidental slip or a cold-blooded murder, we will unfortunately never know. But one thing remains unchanged: the mountains, great and perilous, attract both the powerful and the common people, willing to conquer their peaks and risk their lives in search of adventure. Share your opinion on everything that has been told in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to not miss out on new stories. Recommend this channel to your friends, they will surely find it interesting.